Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using this hello, so you see me waving to you, this stencil from the Happy Hearts release. It is the Hearts in Bloom layering background stencil. Now, I did want to show you what it looks like if you use the stencil the way that it's intended. It's a beautiful background. It does tend to lend itself a little bit more towards Valentine's Day, and since Valentine's Day is coming up, I wanted to show you a different way that you could kind of stretch your products. So over the winter, like near Christmas, I saw a bunch of watercolor artists who were doing like the bubbles or the ornaments, or you've seen people do it with bubbles, where they kind of like dip their whatever it is, mason jar or something, and then they they dip it in their watercolor paints, and then they stamp it on their paper, and then they get this beautiful multicolored bubble. Well, I figured I could do that with stencils. So I'm doing it with just the one stencil here, just the one that has the hearts. And I'm going to show you two different ways that you could do it depending upon what products you have. I chose to start with my Caron Brush Marker Pros. They are watercolor markers. You could also do this with Zigzag color markers or Arteses if you own those. You could do this with watercolor pencils. This is like super fun card background that you can do with a ton of different mediums, and one of them you probably already have. So here what I'm doing, I wanted mine to be rainbow colored. You certainly could do them all one color or two colors, whatever you're feeling like, but I love a good rainbow, and so I wanted to see if I could make that work. So what I'm doing is I'm going in with my pens. I'm working on Monteval watercolor paper because I am going to watercolor these, and I am just tracing the outline of my hearts just a little bit at a time with different colors. And I'm going in rainbow order-ish. Some of them, my lines were long enough that I was able to fit the red in. Some of them, my lines were not long enough, and so I ended up connecting the orange directly to the pink, but either way, it totally worked for me. These are not going to be perfect because it is a liquid marker I'm tracing them with. It's going to seep under the stencil a little bit, but nothing that is like some huge deal. So yeah, we're just going to do that, and then we'll get into the watercoloring. This is a long video with what is hopefully a funny story time. So I just wanted to give you some other options. I know, when we make these investments into our products, we want to get the most that we can out of them. And so some people hesitate to buy products that are geared towards Valentine's Day or geared towards Christmas or, something that specific. But there are ways to stretch these products for you to get a little bit more out of what you've purchased. So the first time around, I taped it down. The second time around, as I was moving the stencil down, because the paper that I'm working on is 4¼ by 6, which gives me about a ½ inch of a buffer for an A2 size card. And so I wanted to cover the whole thing so that way if there were parts that I didn't like, I could just cut them off and pretend like they didn't happen. So I am moving the stencil around. First things first, I did not do it on the first time. I would recommend wiping off your stencil before you move it, because that liquid can kind of seep underneath the stencil. It can be on the backside when you put it down on your new clean paper, and I did find that to be the case. Now, ultimately, my background ended up being, it wasn't like a super clean and simple card. It was a little bit more artistic with the, the watercolor and splatters and stuff like that, but I did learn my lesson, and then I started wiping it off before I moved it. So learn from me. What else are you here to do? Well, I guess you could be here to hear story time and not learn from me, but I'm hoping that you learn something for your card making as well. So here, like I said, just going through, filling them in, and then we'll get to the watercolor. So where's my funny story? It's a long one. We're probably going to have a lot of interruptions. But, also don't do this. Like, I put the tape on the card and then realized pretty quickly that ink was still wet and I smeared my blue. So don't do that either. So over the weekend, I have told you guys before, my daughter, she's, what is she? What will drive my husband insane? 14 months? 15 months? She's on the border between the two. And so she has basically been sick her whole life because she's a daycare kid. And kids are, cesspools. They just have a bunch of germs all the time. And so hopefully she's got a bulletproof immune system as she gets older. But right now we're sick all the time. So on Saturday, she had a little bit of a runny nose. We got up in the morning. She had a little bit of a runny nose. We had breakfast. We had strawberries, and I made her some French toast, and she ate that. She was good. We went to Peanuts basketball game. She was happy girl through all of that. Came home. We did salami and cheese and toast, so like a deconstructed salami sandwich for lunch. Oh, we have to go back to the card. So here we're going to start the watercoloring. I did choose to work with a smaller brush. This is a number 2 round brush. And I treated this watercolor like I do all of my watercolor. So I laid down clean water in the middle, and then I brought my water out to my pigment. And I found that this way, not that I didn't get any muddy colors at all, but it really limited the amount of muddy colors that I got. And I also noticed, like, when I was doing it, I just committed to one side. So I almost like put down the clean water and then kind of like traced the outline. So me touching the moisture to the edge of the color would allow it to kind of bloom into the center of the heart naturally. If you find that you're getting more muddy colors than you would like, I would recommend rinsing your brush. So doing the colors that go together, like your red, pink, purple, blue, rinsing, and then coming back for your green, yellow, orange. But really, I didn't have too many issues, and I was pretty happy with the way that they were coming out. I thought that they were super cute. You'll notice that from here, once we get done, you want to make sure that each layer is completely dry. I chose to let mine air dry because I'm not really working with too much water here. And most of my hearts were honestly dry by the time I got to the last heart, but you want to make sure they're completely dry before you go in with the next layer of hearts, because we're going to be layering these. That you have to make sure they're completely dry, or you will, when you go to trace your next heart on top of it, you'll just be like smushing that water out with your stencil. So yeah, that's that. So anywho, so she had lunch and then she laid down for a nap, and you could tell when she got up from her nap, like, and it wasn't as long as she normally naps for. So I thought, well, maybe she's just tired and she isn't feeling good. Her nose is running a little bit. She's picked up another little bug or something. My girl likes to eat. Okay, it's no secret. She eats it like you're going to steal it away from her. And for dinner, she just really was not interested too much in eating. And sometimes it could be because whatever we're having for dinner, she's just not that into. So then usually I switch over to like a waffle or a pancake, bananas, something that I know that she will usually down. And even in kind of switching over to the things that she does like, she wasn't really interested. So Eric, I was like, do you think maybe we should try a yogurt? Because it's got protein in it, it's filling if her, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. So she ended up eating almost her whole cup of yogurt. We played for a little bit. She was a happy girl, no issues, just, the runny nose and not really, too super interested in eating. She was, however, drinking cup after cup of milk. Like, she was super into the milk. And like our cups only hold, I think it's like 4 ounces. So it's like a half a cup of milk. But she just kept drinking. Like, she probably had like 8 ounces just around dinner time of milk. So we get her ready for bed. We lay her down. She's sleeping. And Saturday nights, I think I've told you guys this before, my husband I get up with her on Saturday mornings. My husband gets up with her on Sunday mornings. So that way we each have one day to sleep in. And so Saturday night is my night that I can stay up where everybody else is asleep and I can do things just for myself, whatever those things may be. And so I knew there was a chance that she may get up because she didn't really feel that great. And so just as I was getting ready to go to bed, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, she starts crying. So I go in there and I'm rubbing her back and she's still crying. So I end up picking her up and then she stopped crying, but she was clearly awake. And so I tried rocking her back to sleep, all that stuff. After 20 minutes, she was awake. And so we just did what we normally do. I took her back downstairs. I changed her. And usually when she wakes up in the middle of the night like that, I will give her a little something to eat. So I made her some oatmeal. That's like I don't know why. That's like, I did the same thing with Peanut when he was that age. Like, that's like my go-to middle of the night snack. Probably because I think it's filling. I don't really know. So I give her a little bit of milk and she probably drinks like 2 ounces. Let's talk about the card for a second. So here now, everything, this is our second layer. You will activate some of the watercolor that you have underneath. But I didn't really find it to be super problematic. Even though I didn't pay any attention whatsoever about what colors I was putting on top of other colors, because it was all just rainbowy in there. I didn't have any issues with it kind of making mud. They both stayed pretty true to their rainbow form. So anywho, she gets up. I give her a little bit of milk, I make her oatmeal, and I go to feed her the oatmeal, and she won't even open her mouth. And now I've told you, my little lady likes to eat. Okay, she is a snacker. So I'm like, okay, that's a little bit odd, but it, whatever, like, we'll roll with it. She drinks a little bit of milk, maybe like 2 ounces. And then we watch an hour and 15 minutes of Moana. Okay, where everything is the same. She's talkative, like she's still in her, I don't change her into like clothes. I leave her in her sleep sack after I change her diaper and stuff. She's snuggling with me while we're, laying together. She's playing a little bit with her toys. She's being chatty. Everything is normal. Everything is normal. And now the bottom is about to drop out, y'all. So I paused the movie because I've learned my lesson that sometimes I think she's ready for bed and she isn't. She's been rubbing her eyes. And so I pick her up. I change her. I'm walking over to get the channel changer. Oh, something to note here. I accidentally traced one of the hearts that wasn't completely, like, it wasn't a full heart. But no fear. Like, you can totally fix this. You could wait till it dries and go back in with the stencil, or you can do what I did, which was I just extended the line myself with the markers. I was pretty confident in my ability to draw a heart. And then I just added water, blended the two back into each other, and nobody would be any the wiser. So I pick up the channel changer, I pause the movie, I set the channel changer down, and I turn around to take her back upstairs to go to bed. And this child just starts vomiting all over me, all over her. And so, fortunately and unfortunately, all of the remnants of what she's eaten all day long are caught in between me and her. Like, they're stuck between our bodies. Our bodies are creating a catch-all for her vomit. And she's not crying. Like, she's thrown up 4 times on me. It's not on the carpet, thank God. But I also can't set her down. I cannot put the baby down. So I come upstairs, I open the bedroom door, and I'm like, Eric, you have to get up, the baby is sick. Now, let me tell you a little something about my husband. He has a very weak stomach. He cannot do the throw-ups. He can't do it. He's so strong and wonderful in so many ways, but the man can't do the puke. And I don't really blame him, because even I, who am not typically bothered by this, was having a very hard time with this one. Do you remember how much milk and yogurt I said that she drank? Because every single thing that child ate from the beginning of the day was now on me. She digested none of it. It was like sitting like a rock in her belly. Let's go back to the card. So here, at this point, this is another way that you can do this if you have no other watercolor mediums. A distress ink or a reactive ink, something that works with water, you can do this same technique with, I use the smaller brushes from Honeybee, but I just went in with each individual color and did a little bit of ink blending on each heart. There's no real way to get an outline on this, and you almost end up filling up the whole heart, which is fine. but also this is not going to be as bold because the ink is spread out into the ink pad. It's just a lighter look, which actually I super liked. I thought it was really pretty, like really pretty pastel hearts. And I think that, for like Easter or springtime, if you did a stencil that had flowers or like the little eggs for Easter, like this would be a great way to create a really fun background. So that's what I'm doing here, and then I'm going to go in with the same brush and watercolor them just like I did with the previous hearts. The only difference is there's no place to put clean water. So you have to do where you start with colors that mix well together, rinse, and then come back and get the other colors, and then just kind of let them do their thing. So I open the door, babe, I need you to get up. And to his credit, even though he has a super weak stomach, he was like, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to take her? And I was like, straight up, you don't want any part of this. Okay, can you just start her bath for me? And he was like, okay. So I take her downstairs to the laundry room. I have my robe on. I have my robe on. My robe is covered in vomit. I set her down on the floor. I take off my robe. I don't have anywhere to set it. So I just put it into the washer. I just set everything like in the washer. So I take my robe off because it has vomit on it. I take my shirt off because it has vomit on it. I look down and it is literally in my bra. Like that is not, like, it was so much force. It forced its way through a robe, a shirt, and then my underclothes. So then I have to get her undressed. So she has a sleep sack on. Now she is mad at me because I will not let her have her vomit color covered pacifier. So now she starts crying. She sits down. She is pinning the sleep sack with her tush. She's pinning it to the floor, so I can't get it off of her. So I'm having to like manhandle her arms to try to get her out of the sleep sack. I finally get that off. It's on her onesie. I get that off. She sleeps with the sock, the outlet sock, and when the sock is not connected, it alarms. I have to take her sock off. I've got her down to her diaper. I take a baby wipe, off her face, I wipe off her hands because she's crying and she's tired and she's trying to use her vomit-covered hands to rub her eyeballs. It is a mess. I literally say out loud, Lord, I'm going to need some help here. So I get her all wiped off. I can hear that the sock is alarming. Okay. So it plays this little tune, do, 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 but it like shrieks it. So it wakes you up in the middle of the night. So I can hear the alarm sounding. I tell my husband, do not go back there. Under no circumstances, do not go back there. If the sock is back there, do not go get the sock. It is so bad, you can't go back there. And he's like, okay. So I take her upstairs. I take her diaper off. I get her into the tub. Mind you, since she has vomited all over the both of us, she is a very happy girl. She's chatty. She is a happy baby. She is not, she must have felt so much better. So she's in the tub playing. I can't find Eric. I'm waiting for him to come back upstairs because I'm standing there half dressed. I need to clean myself up so I can clean the rest of everything up. And so he comes upstairs and I say, can you sit with her? He says, yes. I go into our bedroom. I get the rest of the way undressed. I wash myself in the sink with a washcloth and some body soap from the waist up. I get redressed in new clothes. I go back to the bathroom and I said, because normally I do her baths. I'm like, are you good? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to do her bath? And he was like, no, I tried to go get the sock. I shouldn't have gone back there. It's so bad. I can't go back there again. I'll do the bath. And I was like, dude, I told you not to go back there. And he was like, I know, but I wanted to be helpful, which God bless him. He was trying to be helpful, but I also knew how bad it was. It was so bad. It was so bad. So I go back downstairs. And mind you, we have a lot of dairy products that have curdled. They're in very large chunks all over my floor. I take all of the stuff out of the washer. I take it to my sink. I rinse it out because I can't put the stuff in my washer. You know what I mean? There's like pieces of salami in there that haven't even been digested. So I take it all back out, rinse it out in the sink, carry it back to the washer. I put in those extra little scent crystals because Lord knows we're going to need it. I start the washer. Then I go get paper towels. I clean up all the stuff off the floor. It's smushing into my hardwood floors. I clean it a second time. I go get the green machine spray. I spray it all over my floor. I clean it a third time. By this time, my husband's bringing her down after her bath. She is also, again, very happy, chatty. Hello, hi, mommy. How you doing? That whole jazz. So we get her redressed. And I'm like, dude, are you good? And he was like, yes, go get in the shower. Thank you, Jesus. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I take myself upstairs. I get into the shower. Take like a 10-minute shower. Let's go back to the card. So here, I like a little splatter. Not everybody does. If you want to skip the splatter, by all means, you certainly don't have to do this. But for the distress inks, I use the distress inks. For the Karen markers, I use the Karen markers. I just scribbled them on my glass mat and then splattered them on. And then I also did some splatters of Perfect Pearls before I moved on to building my cards. So I go up, I get in the shower, I come downstairs, I'm like, how is she doing? And he was like, she's totally fine. Like, she's starting to get a little sleepy. So I bring her back upstairs, I put her to bed, she falls asleep almost immediately. We get back into bed at like 5 o'clock in the morning. At this point, I have been up since 8 a.m. the previous morning. So I am exhausted. I am totally exhausted. And do you know who slept through the entirety of this? Peanut. He slept through all of it. Through the throwing up, through the do alarm, through my shower, her bath, us running up and down the stairs like lunatics, the whole thing. He slept right through it. Like the next morning, he was like, what, Caitlin's sick? So I will say that obviously I have another child, so I have been through the getting sick. Caitlin also had a tummy bug for like 2 weeks where she was throwing up on everything, but that was back when she was on formula, so it wasn't like a true throw up. It was more like spit up. This was the worst kid that ever got me. This was the worst one. So here I'm bringing in some other products. I am using the sentiment banner dies, the stacking hearts dies, and then the kind and the color are they have stamps and dies as well. These are from previous releases. Honeybee has a ton of these sentiments where they have like a coordinating die with the stamp. I love these things. These things are so great for like background cards because they're large enough to carry a card and they have multiple sentiments in them that you can use them for several different things. So I'm going to be able to pair these with my little heart background and make it not Valentine's Day whatsoever. So, like I said, there's a lot of options in there. I chose to go with I Love Your Kind Heart. And then the other one I chose to go with was You Add Color to My Life. I feel like these are both really good, like general cards to send friends or thank you cards to send friends. Either one of these I think you could use multiple times. So I also cut out those little stacking hearts. I used the smallest 2 hearts out of black when I have a very busy background. I like to have a neutral sentiment. I also like to have a neutral, I was going to say accessory, like they're a purse, right? I like to have a neutral embellishment. And so that is why I chose to do the hearts out of black. Here, I've lined up my sentiment banners with the ones that I felt like were the appropriate size. I cut everything out. The one on the left here, this You Add So Much Color to My Life, I was having a really hard time with the layout. And so I just decided that I would go ahead and put this one together. And then I would come back to the other one. So I'm using my tweezers to help me, just hold that in place, do my little dots of our precision glue, and then glue it to the shadow. What you see in the background is the general layout that I will be using. Probably not exactly, but I like to lay my cards out beforehand, just so I have an idea before I'm starting to adhere everything where they're going. And then because I used, I think it was like a 3.5. Yeah, I think that watercolor paper that I did the distress inking on was like 3.5 inches by 5.5. I chose to do a black mat on it to just kind of fill up that white area on the side and then tie in my black sentiment without adding any more color. You certainly could add more, like a color I would just, whatever color you decide to add for your matte or for your sentiment, that you make them the same so that there isn't a ton of extra going on, because these are rainbow hearts. If you chose to do a single color or even 2-color hearts and not the rainbow ones, you could probably get away with adding more color using the mattes. But because I already have so much going on, a neutral is going to be best for me. So yeah, so I mean, it definitely was, it was a wild ride on Saturday. And then Sunday, she woke up, she was totally fine. She has not, thank God, thrown up again, but she has had a little bit of an upset tummy since then. I think, this is what I think, I do not know, I am suspicious it was the strawberries, because starting at breakfast, like, she ate really well, and like, I know it wasn't the eggs or the milk that I made the French toast with, because I had tested them, so I know it wasn't that. And then for the salami and cheese she had for lunch, I ate the same thing and I was not sick. But she was already sick by dinner, so I am super suspicious that it was possibly the strawberries. So I will be like, if there's one fuzzy strawberry in my container, they're trash. Like, I can't risk it again. It was so it was so terrible. Oh, Lord. So yeah, my husband I do feel bad for him, because I can't imagine that it's super fun to be the person who, like, feel like it isn't able, like he said, like, I just wanted to be helpful, and I genuinely believe that. I think that he did want to be helpful, but I know his limitations, and I knew that even I was struggling a bit, and so he was definitely going to struggle a lot. Though one time when she was sick, like I told you before, she was sick when she was a baby and she was doing like the spit up throw up, she did it while he was holding her, and he managed not to throw up on her, which I thought was very, very impressive. But I think it's like, now that she's older and she's eating real people food, and the milk is so bad. Yeah, 0 stars, would not recommend. I'm very hesitant to give her milk now. So anywho, here I'm gonna build this without showing it to you, because it's the same thing, but I did want to show you that eventually I found that I liked the sentiments without the banner edge. I just found it easier to arrange them, and so I did end up trimming it off of those ones and then putting my sentiment onto the card front. I also used some rhinestones to just kind of accent what was going on, but also to make the hearts more interesting. Alternatively, I could have gone in with like a stickles or like a sparkle lacquer or some glossy accents just to give them a little extra something, but I chose to go with rhinestones because I like all the sparkly things. So I went ahead and put those on, and then that was the last step. Here is both cards. I hope that you learned a little bit of something and that you will try this technique in your cards with your stencils that you have. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.